Hey everybody, Jane here, and we are going to take another slight detour from our usual bookish content. I had promised that we would talk about the puree and soft food stage of bariatric surgery, and so we are going to do that in this video. Pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soft spoken. All right, so a little bit of background. I had my bariatric surgery on July 17th, and per my surgeon, I did 2 weeks of liquids, 3 weeks of purees, 1 week of soft foods, and now I'm on to a regular diet. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. It's been a journey. I did a whole video on the liquid diet phase, but I decided to kind of combine the puree and the soft foods together because I didn't have as much to say about that time period. I've had a very fortunate journey so far, as in that I haven't had a lot of food intolerance. The only thing I found, and I found this during the puree phase and actually tested it again tonight and found that I still am not digesting it really well, is fish, which is weird because I can do pork, I can do chicken, I can do turkey, and I can do beef. But apparently pork just is not sitting, or I'm sorry, fish is just not sitting super well with me right now. I don't know why. And I've tried cod and tilapia, and neither of them sat well. But then I can do, like, I've done crab salad, which has some kind of fish in there for imitation crab, and I do okay with that. So I don't know, but enough about that. Let's back up. So puree foods are foods that are wet and mushy. And depending on your doctor's plan, that may include things like vegetables, it may include fruits, it may include applesauce. There's a lot of things it could include. A couple things that were a big deal to me. One of the things that I did to prepare for the puree phase was to go buy quite a bit of baby food. And that was not as helpful as I thought it was going to be. So it was great for the veggies. I got several veggies, and oh my gosh, I forgot how much I loved vegetables and how much I kind of missed having vegetables during the liquid phase when I didn't really have any vegetables at all. So I had gotten sweet baby food, sweet potatoes, baby food, peas, baby food green beans, and baby food carrots. All of those tasted a little bit better, heated up, and the ones that were just the baby food themselves, I did well with. One of the downsides that I personally had is I didn't find a baby food container of vegetables adequate for my satiation needs because it's very light. It's almost like drinking a liquid. So even though I had them as a puree, it really wasn't very filling. And that was one of the first things I really struggled at with the purees. Everybody's body is different, and I didn't expect to be as hungry as I was. But starting about when I started the purees, I really was finding myself hungry, and having food that had a little more substance worked better for me personally. So if I was pairing, or if I was going to do one of the veggies, the 2-ounce veggies, I would pair it with like 2 ounces of mixed up meat. So I was allowed to do meat in a sauce. So I had tried things like I did chicken salad, chicken and mayonnaise. That was fine. I didn't have any problems with it. I was able to do eggs. Now my doctor did tell me not to do yolk yet, and I have not yet tried yolk. So I've been getting like the liquid eggs, the egg whites, and I was using that pretty early for omelets because also in the puree phase, I could do some melted cheese. So omelets with melted cheese, a little picante sauce, it was a staple. Because the other challenge is I'm still trying to meet my protein goals with the purees, and the vegetables, unless you added protein, didn't have, or unless you added protein powder, didn't have adequate protein to really add to my protein needs. So it was largely just like, yes, this is great. I'm having the flavors of vegetables and I love that. But I thought I was going to want it more and I bought like a lot more than I thought I needed. And I still haven't eaten them all. And now I'm on like real food. And so that has been one of my biggest learns is I bought way too much for each period of time. And some of the things I have not continued to use and they've kind of gone to waste. And baby food was one of those. Now, another thing I did get that was kind of a mixed bag is I got baby food mixtures that were like, I think it was level 1 or level 2. And it's basically like one of them was like Mexican chicken in a little pouch. Another one of them I want to say was like beef stroganoff, maybe in a pouch. I got these at Walmart. And a couple things. They don't taste very good. Whereas I really didn't have a problem with the taste of the veggies by themselves, the combination meals I really did not enjoy the taste of for any of them. They were nice when I was traveling because I did have to do a couple of day trips during that time, and packing food when all you can have is purees is really tricky. And so there was one day where I was going out to visit my best friend, and so I took these like 2 pouches of baby food with me, and I did eat them during that time, but they were not very satisfying because, like I said, the baby food, it doesn't really sit as well if you're hungry because it's so light. And then additionally, the taste, it was just not great. So I would be cautious about if you're using baby food during the puree stage of, going with single flavors instead of like the combo packs of, all things mixed in together. And also like heat them up if you feel that that is useful to you. And just know that that may not be the best option during the puree phase, even though that seems like a quick, easy way to handle things. Also make sure you're checking your nutrition labels because unfortunately a lot of the fruits were too high in sugar. I think I only found one thing of fruit that was low enough in sugar that I was allowed to have it based on like what my doctor told me. So the diet my doctor put me on, he didn't want me to have during any of the pre-normal food phase more than 6 grams of fat or 6 grams of sugar. And unfortunately, a lot of them had more than that. And I also, unsweetened applesauce was on the list of foods we could have, but the sugar content that I could find was too high. So I haven't found an applesauce that has less than 6 grams of sugar in like one of the serving cups. And I could have less than a full little container of it, but my thought is at that point you're having like a spoonful, why bother? So the puree phase, you might start feeling a little more hungry. So I would recommend really focusing on meat if you're able to digest it. And like I said, the only thing I had trouble with was fish. And I did have that as my like second day of purees. And so initially I thought I just had it too soon, but I was doing fine with all the other meats. If you're going to have a meat, make sure it is moist and mixed with something. That was another thing that I didn't do as well as I hoped to, is I would buy chicken and like in my daily life, I want chicken that has some flavor. So I would buy chicken that had flavoring, but then to go to mix it with liquid, it kind of didn't work as well. We had bought one that was like a teriyaki chicken and there wasn't enough teriyaki to make it wet and moist so that I could have it during the puree phase. But then when you added, I think it was mayonnaise that I added to it, it just didn't go real well with the teriyaki flavoring. Now we did have another one that was a Mexican chicken flavoring, and that one I used sour cream and that worked out really well. So just like be aware that when you're buying the different flavorings of chicken that you have to make it liquid during the puree phase. And so make sure you have things that mesh together. I was really surprised. I had gotten gravy as well for my meats, and it was lower fat than I expected. So gravy is a great way was a great way that I used to make my meats moist and kind of stay within the parameters that I'd been given of moist meat if I wanted to do meat. Meat, if you can stomach it, and again, not everybody can, is a great thing during the puree phase. I basically lived on meat and eggs. They were great. Once I moved on to the soft foods, I was basically eating a lot of things that I would eat typically, and I'm still kind of on more soft foods than anything else. I do venture into like normal foods a little bit, but I'm still more on what I was eating during the soft food stage. So in the soft food stage, you can add a little bit of bread, you can add tortillas. Again, this is my doctor's rules. You may or may not have the same rules from your surgeon. Always follow your surgeon's recommendations. But I found that just having the ability to add pasta and bread and tortillas really opened things up for me. I have been finding or trying to find high protein versions of those things and also like low carb versions. So if for a while I was doing egg based tortillas, which are great for wraps, but I didn't find them great for putting things in the oven. So one of the first things I did when I could have solids is to make a tortilla pizza, because I missed pizza so bad. And I tried to use one of the egg tortillas and it really stuck to the pan. I had it on the aluminum foil really bad and it was a hot mess and hard to cut. So I ended up going and getting some just like Carb Master tortillas. For people who don't want Carb Master because there's some nutritional issues with it, I totally understand. And maybe you'll have better luck or ways of using the chicken base or the egg base tortilla wraps. I just personally found that they didn't work good for like a base when I was cooking on them, but they worked great for wraps. So I think the first day I did some kind of wrap with mine, I want to say it was a chicken wrap, but I couldn't swear to you. And I know another day I had done like a taco. I did the meat and the sour cream and the cheese and the egg wrap, and that was really good. But it definitely was good for that, but not for like cooking and making a fake pizza. So again, kind of like I said in the liquid video, doing lots of things to try to experiment and see what works for you is important. Being creative, saying, you know, this is what kind of food I want, here's what I can do. Also, I would just really be cautious that first time you eat something new, because one of the things I found is I would feel really icky the first time I tried a new food, but like then I'd be fine with it. So that happened several times where I thought I was going to get sick from stuff, but then I didn't end up feeling bad afterwards. But like it was just like my body going, what is this? Why are we eating this? So one of the things my doctor told me is if you have a food and it doesn't sit well, to try again a couple weeks later. And I would say if you have a food that just kind of feels weird, but you don't end up getting sick from it, to try it again a couple days later, because it may be okay. Don't push yourself. If you start feeling sick, obviously stop. I have a hard time with that. But be prepared during the puree phase and on to start being more hungry. That has been a real challenge for me, is, you know, making sure I'm using my app to track, because I feel like I am overeating because I'm hungry all the time. And my surgeon told me I should be eating every 3 hours. And that feels like I'm eating so much. Although when I check my app and I'm tracking, I'm still under 700 calories every day. Like most days I'm lucky if I hit 500. So that has been something, is being really afraid since I got into the puree and soft foods of overeating. And obviously you can overeat if you're eating the wrong foods. So make sure you are tracking. Use your tracking app. I use Verytastic. I don't love it, but it at least lets me know where I am and make sure that I'm not overeating, and the feelings I get of, oh my gosh, I've eaten so much today. Yes, you've eaten so much, but in such small quantities that you're still at, you know, a really low calorie count. My doctor gave me a max calorie of 1,200, and I have not yet come even into the thousands since surgery. So just be aware that you may feel like you're overeating, and to make sure you're getting your protein and doing your protein first, even when all of a sudden it's like, oh yes, I can have food. um, do you guys have any questions for me about any of the phases so far of the bariatric diet? I can only speak from my own personal experience and for what my doctor told me to do, but so far I have had a really good experience with it. I've had very few food intolerances, like I said, other than cod and tilapia, and I didn't throw up on either of those. Even tonight when I had it, it just left me feeling a little bit crampy and burpy, but it didn't make me like full on sick. I have not yet thrown up from anything I've eaten. I know that I'm one of the lucky ones because I know that can happen, but so far I've not had that issue. But yeah, each protein, but also don't buy tons and tons of stuff for the different phases because A, you may not know what you like, and B, they go by fast. It doesn't seem like it's going to go by fast, but it does. So especially like pureed fruits and veggies, I get a couple of them and then buy more if you need to, but don't stock up because then once you move on to like the soft food phase, now I've got all these containers of baby food that I don't really want because they're not filling. So I have to be really mindful of like, okay, I'm going to take this to work as a side for, a heavier meal so that I don't feel hungry afterwards. But yeah, your hunger will start to come back fairly quickly for a lot of people, I think. Definitely it did for me. So just be aware that those things might happen, but that, opening up about the types of food you can eat is a great thing. So I wish you the best on your journey. I don't do a lot of bariatric content, although if you ask questions, I will try to answer them about my personal journey. And if anything else comes up about this journey, I will make sure that I make a video about it, just letting people know. But this is mostly a book channel, so if you're here for the bariatric content, please do not subscribe because 99% of the time we talk books here. All right, guys, this has been Jay, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.